Today we're talking about Trump derangement syndrome. It's a term that has been going around the internet lately, more so in the days leading up to and following the election. Namely, it's all about people who are liberals and Trump won, and then they freaked out. And it started to be a trend where people would freak out publicly in TikToks or something like that, screaming and hollering and just having a total meltdown because Donald Trump has won the presidency, and they feel that the world as they know it is coming to an end. And to that, I would point out the fact that there really isn't anything completely new here. We still have a democratic republic, and for the greater part, there is no cause to believe that the world is ending because your political candidate of choice lost the election, any more than the world ended in 2020 when Trump lost an election and the conservatives had to live with 3.5 years of democratic policies. Now, it might not be good for gas prices or something like that, but ultimately it's important to remember that the vast majority of things that will affect the quality of your life are not what a politician does, but they are what you do in your life to take responsibility for your circumstances and your share of your own destiny. Now, that being said, what I really wanted to talk about is how, as someone who did vote for Trump, someone who is excited to a point to see the leftist activist ideologies get pushed into the back seat for a little while, as someone who's looking forward to a Trump presidency, I'm also offended by people who demonstrate a similar Trump derangement syndrome on the other side of the fence. I'm talking about conservatives who are so excited by the winning of Trump that in their celebration they act as if Trump is some sort of a god, that he is a savior, a supreme idol to be venerated. There's the attitude amongst Trump loyalists that just because Trump has won an election, that must automatically mean that peace and security will immediately return to the world everywhere. There's no longer any cause for concern. The economy is going to be great. Geopolitical issues are going to be all resolved. There will be no problems in the world anymore because one man won a political election in one country. And that's equally deranged. It's deranged to say that one person or one idea is capable of being so all-encompassing, so important, that it merits defining your entire personality by it. There's good points and points of concern which could be raised for and against both the conservative and the liberal parties in the United States. But the real question is, why do people have to worship something? Because that's really what we're seeing. We see Trump people worshiping Trump. We see leftists worshiping DEI initiatives and all of the woke stuff that they think is so important to their virtue signaling ethos. We see people worshiping their God of choice in church and synagogues and mosques and all of those other places of worship. People always have something that they worship, something that they cast their faith upon, and which they use as a tool for defining who they are. For a lot of people, that's their favorite sports team. It's the people who are so obsessed with some particular team that they decorate their entire home in it, and anytime you talk to them, all they can think about is their favorite sports team. The kind of people who will rage if they lose, scream at the television while the play is happening. Those sorts of people. The reason why all of this bothers me isn't because none of those people have valid points. It's because it's imbalanced, and imbalanced attitudes toward life bother me because I know that they're not rooted in truth. And it's a frustrating, sad, and lonely thing to realize that even when you're surrounded with people who might seem to agree on the issues, you're coming at life from a different perspective. One person is obsessed with something and taking it just far enough to reduce themselves to a caricature, and not really being willing to look at the reality, which is almost always something somewhere in the middle, somewhere in between. It's not totally black and white. It's a mixture of darkness and light, which surrounds us. And we need all perspectives. We need liberals and we need conservatives. We need faith and we need reason. But you can't really have a pragmatic discussion with someone when they're so mired in looking for confirmation of what they believe, confirmation of what they want to see, that they aren't really willing to just have a conversation about how, it's not really 100% black and white, and you can be happy a political candidate won or something like that, but that doesn't mean that the world's problems are over. It doesn't mean that that person is perfect. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't take a look at both sides and be capable of calling ourselves out for the things that are imperfect about what we believe or the path that we're on. Like I was talking to someone about going through divorce and looking back on failed relationships in the past and what I would have taken away from that. And we were talking about this topic, and what came up was, I would look back on a failed marriage and I would say, well, there's certain things that my ex-wife had going on in her life. She had things that were, I would say, character flaws. And those are things which to this day I would still say, I'm not going to say that she was not at fault for some things that were major problems in our relationship. And ultimately, she is the one who left. So when you look at a relationship, you have to acknowledge that the person who stops trying, the person who walks out the door, ultimately they are responsible. Because if you stop deciding that you're going to be invested and present, then you really are the person who's at fault for making the relationship end. It's just that simple. But the nuance comes in when I look back and I say, well, what could I have done better? And what were the things that I failed to do that could have led to a better outcome? And as I look back, I do see all of the things that I have done wrong and all of the things I could have done better. Many times learning to be more sensitive of other people, learning to be kind, and learning to, in some cases, be more firm. It's just a lot of different things. And that's not really the point of what this video is. The point is being able to look at something, and even if you say and believe that you're right about it, to acknowledge that it's not 100% black and white. And even if someone else is at fault for something and you're mostly right, there's still something you could be doing better. There's still something that you're doing wrong. There's still a learning opportunity, and you should be able to acknowledge that, to say, I'm not perfect and my side's not perfect, and no person is perfect. And so we're going to look at this through a balanced and a reasonable approach. And I think that that's where liberals go wrong. It's where conservatives go wrong. It's where religious zealots go wrong, because as human beings, we always want to distill everything down to two sides, good and evil. And we represent the good, and anyone who disagrees with us or sees things different in any way is evil. And if we get our way, then it's good. And if we don't get our way, then it's evil. But life is far more nuanced. It's far more of a shade of gray than that. It's important for us to have a pragmatic approach to life. I think that pragmatic liberalism is an important thing to a healthy society. The kind of classical liberalism that was born in the forums of ancient Greece, ability to look at all perspectives, to put all ideas under a single big tent and say, even if we don't agree on things, we still want all of those different perspectives because we are enriched by them collectively. So as we move through change and we navigate all the different things happening, let's remember how important it is to look at all sides and not just become entrenched in a specific silo that we root for and cheer for, because there's a lot more to life than just one perspective. As always, thanks so much for watching.